And that rollicking music can mean only one thing. It's time for the Frugal Former Engineer Jeff show with another great cooking recipe for you. Here we have everything we need to make this breakfast sandwich. First we have one English muffin, a fork to open it with, some butter to put on the surfaces, and a piece of aluminum foil to warm it up and brown it on while in the toaster oven, which is over here to the side. Then we have a single egg, a bowl to crack it into, a pan to cook it in with a lid that fits, and an egg corral to keep the egg in the size that we want it for the bun, a spatula to get the last egg out of the bowl into the pan, and a fun little egg beater to beat the egg, and a pair of pliers to lift the egg corral out of the pan when it's hot. And over here we have a pre-cooked sausage patty in a Corningware dish that can go in the microwave oven with a piece of paper towel to control spattering while it's warming up, and also to blot extra grease off after it's heated, a single piece of cheese, and a plate to serve it up on when we're done. And as I mentioned over here to the side, we do have a toaster oven, and then we have a microwave oven and a stove. So let's get started. Now the first thing we want to do is open up our English muffin, and we can do that with this fork. Just poke in from the edges here all the way around the perimeter. And I've heard this is the proper way to do it. Some people just take a knife and cut it, but we'll just take a few extra seconds and do it this way. Okay, now we're almost all the way around, so there we are. So now we can open that up like that. And then we're just going to add a little bit of butter here to the surface. We don't need very much. And now we're going to take this over and just stick it in the broiler of our toaster oven. And then we'll take a look at it when it's done. The next step here is to prepare the egg. And before we do that, I want to show, now I have put the egg corral in the pan, just set it in there, and I've smeared a little bit of butter around the inside of the egg corral, and we've got some in the bottom that's going to melt. And we're going to put that over here on the stove, so just a moment. I'll put that over here on kind of a medium setting, medium-low. And now we're going to prep the egg itself. And the first thing we're going to do is crack the egg into the bowl here. And we'll just do that without getting any shell in the bowl, and we'll throw the egg shell away. And then we can take this little tool and beat the egg. I think this works a whole lot better than a fork. So I'll never go back to a fork. That's just, well, I've used one of these for 50 years, very much like this since I was a kid in my mom's kitchen. So we'll put that over to be washed. So now we've got our egg beaten already. And now we're going to go over here to the stove here in a moment and just look at how the butter has melted into the pan. And we want that hot so that when we pour the egg in, it immediately starts cooking so it won't leak out from underneath the egg corral. So that's the next step. We'll go over and look at that. Okay, so here we are over at the old 1970s Gen Air, and we've got the egg corral in here, and we've got the butter is melted in the middle, and the whole thing is preheated just enough so that I think when we pour the egg in, it will start cooking without sticking or without leaking out from underneath the egg corral. I did let a little of the butter leak out, so we'll just see how that goes. But here's the egg, and we're just going to pour that into the middle. And we'll use the scraper to not waste any. So far so good. I don't see egg leaking out from underneath. So now we're going to put the cover on here, and then we're going to wait for 2 or 3 minutes before we take a look at that again, and we'll see how it looks. Now would be a good time to take our frozen sausage patty and have that in our microwave safe container, and put a little bit of paper towel over that and stick that in the microwave so this will stop any spattering. And we're just going to put that in for 1 minute at high power, and the patty will come out really good. So we'll step over to the microwave and do that. And now we're going to wait for the English muffin to be done, and then we'll start getting ready to assemble. So now our English muffin is toasted nicely, and we've got what I'm going to consider the bottom and the top. And so we're going to set the bottom over on the plate that's going to be used where we start to assemble. And now we have the sausage patty, and it's warmed up. And we're just going to blot that off a little bit to get some of that excess grease off of there. There's quite a bit, and so we don't need to eat all of that. And then we'll set that onto the bottom of the English muffin, and it just sits on there like that. And then I like to take my piece of cheese and make it fit this. So if we set that on there just like that, well, it's a little bit too big and hangs off the edges. So what I do is I fold in the edges like that, these corners, and make it a little bit smaller, and then just face that down on the hot patty, and then we're ready to set the egg on top when that's done. So let's go check on that. Okay, so here we are back at the stove a few minutes after we started cooking the egg. It's nice here, we see the egg has not spilled out from underneath. But if we jiggle this a little, we can see that there's still a little bit liquid in the top. So what I'm going to do at this point is introduce one more tool, a spatula, to flip it over. But first we've got to get this egg corral out of here. And hopefully, well, the egg didn't completely release from that, so we'll just take a knife and make sure that drops out. And then we're going to take the spatula and just flip it over. And there we've got a nice fluffy egg with a little bit of brown on it. We'll just leave that cook for about a minute under that, and then we'll be ready to assemble that into our sandwich. Okay, now the egg has finished cooking, and so I'm just going to set that on top of our piece of cheese there. And then we are going to set the top part of the bun on the top and kind of push it together. And there we have our completed finished sandwich. And if we were to look at the cost of all of this, what do we have? We have one English muffin. I think I buy 6 of these for about $1.50. So what's that? 30 some cents. An egg for $0.25. Sausage patties are typically about 50 cents. And a piece of cheese, maybe $0.25. So this is a very good deal compared to what you would pay for a comparable sandwich at a fast food place. And now probably the most important part of any cooking video is when we actually check out the product. And so we'll just do that quick. And that is very good. A very nice mixture of the toasted bread, the sausage, the cheese that's melted between the sausage and the warm egg, and the top bun. I enjoy this far more than the kind that I get when I drive through a fast food place. I think this is really good. I hope you try it. One more important aspect of making a meal for the Frugal Former Engineer is to make sure that we don't dirty so many dishes that makes a big mess. And everything that we used here is very easy to clean. Simply wipe out the pan, rinse off the egg beater and the spatula, wipe out and rinse out the container that the sausage was heated in, and rinse off the spatula, the egg corral, and the plate that was used to serve. And all of this can go right into the 1970s Hot Point dishwasher right behind me. And that's all for this time on the Frugal Former Engineer Jeff show.